5 most corrupt elections in the world. 1. Afghanistan presidential election 2009. Widespread allegations of fraud, including stuffing ballots and intimidating voters. Presidential elections were held in Afghanistan on August 20, 2009. The election resulted in the victory of the incumbent Hamid Karzai, which received a majority of votes, while his main rival was Abdullah Abdullah, finished second with few votes. Elections are characterized by a lack of security, low voter turnout, low public awareness of the electoral process, extensive ballot stuffing, intimidation, and other electoral fraud. The second, announced under heavy pressure from the United States and its allies, was originally scheduled to take place on November 2, 3, but was cancelled after Abdullah refused to participate and Hamid Karzai proclaimed president of Afghanistan for another 5 years. 2. The 2013 Kenyan presidential election has been accused of voter fraud. This includes the use of fake voter IDs and multiple voting. The Kenyan Supreme Court finally decides on the results of the election, but the opposition claimed it was a fraudulent election. General elections were held in Kenya on March 4, 2013. Voters elect president, member of the National Assembly, and the newly formed Senate. They are the first elections held under the new constitution approved in the 2010 referendum, and also the first to be conducted by the new Election and Independent Boundary Commission, IEBC. Kenya local elections 2013. 3. The 2018 Mexican presidential election has been criticized for a number of irregularities. This includes buying votes and using illegal campaign funds. The winning candidate, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, denied any wrongdoing and was announced as the official winner. A general election was held in Mexico on July 1, 2018. Voters elect the new president of Mexico for a 6-year term, 2 senators for 6 years, and 128 members of the House of Representatives for 3 years. It was the largest election day in Mexican history. Most of the nation's states hold state and local elections on the same day, including 3 state governors, with more than 403 positions dependent on elections at all levels of government. It was the most violent campaign Mexico has experienced in its history. 130 political figures have been killed since September 2017. The 2004 Ukrainian presidential election was widely accused of fraud, including stuffing ballots and intimidating voters. Opposition candidate Viktor Yushchenko claimed victory, but the election was eventually cancelled by Ukraine's Supreme Court. Presidential elections were held in Ukraine on October 31, November 21, and December 26, 2004. These were the 4th presidential elections to take place in Ukraine after independence from the Soviet Union. The final stage of the elections was disputed between opposition leader Viktor Yushchenko and Prime Minister Viktor Yanukovych from the regional party. Later, the Ukrainian Supreme Court ruled that the election was caused by widespread falsification of election results in favor of Yanukovych. 5. The 2020 Belarusian presidential election is riddled with allegations of fraud and election fraud. This led to widespread protests and international condemnation. Incumbent President Alexander Lukashenko was declared the winner, but the opposition claims the election was stolen. Presidential elections are held in Belarus on Sunday, August 9, 2020. Early voting begins on August 4 and runs until August 8. Alexander Lukashenko, the incumbent, was announced by the Central Election Commission (CC) to win his 6th term in office. To his credit, with just 80% of the vote, Lukashenko won every presidential election since 1994. All but the first was condemned by international observers as neither free nor fair. Opposition candidate Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya claimed a decisive first-round victory with at least 60% of the vote and called on Lukashenko to start negotiations. Later, her campaign set up a coordinating council to facilitate the transfer of power and stated that it was ready to organize long-term protests against the official result. The 7 members of the Presidium Coordinating Council were subsequently arrested or deported.